Hello, hello, hello. How are we all today? Let me just put out the word. I'm going to steal my camera real fast. I need to go here. If I just do this, we can just pretend I'm showing you Lucius. There we go. There we go. Alright, let's shush that. Let's bring this back up. Oh. That's not worked out very well at all, has it? Okay, flip. There we go. And then get that back in place. There we go, and there is Lucius. Fantastic. Now I just have to go tell everybody else. I do one of those. We would like to do. Stop flying in my space. What else are we doing? I want to come over here. I need to tell Instagram that we're live. I also need to make sure that everything actually works. That would be nice. I need to tell Instagram that we're live. A little muffled. Is that just the noise cancellation? Let me turn that off. Let me see how that helps. Let's have one of these. A little muffled. Is that just the noise cancellation? Let me turn that off. Let me see how that helps. Oh, what if I put it here? Maybe that will help a bit more. What if I put it here? Maybe that will help a bit more. Yeah, that sounds a bit better. That'll do. Right, shush me. Okay, and we just want to put out. Okay, birthday stream live. Bam. Let's put up a post, and then we want to take the description. Put that down let's put in some tags. Painting. What else have we got? Grimdark. And Chaos Space Marines. There we go. That will do. Let's go. Bam. Share that, please. Done. Okay, awesome. That's great. Okay, awesome. That can go back here. What else do I need to do? Let's do this. What else have we got? What other YouTube shenanigans do I need to do that I really should do in advance, but I never think of? Tags. Did I put tags in the other stream when we did it? No, I didn't. Okay. Let's see. We're gonna grab some tags from somewhere around here. Hmm. There we go. Weird. It went weird, but we fixed it. It's okay. Let's go over here. I want to dump a bunch of tags. Lovely. Right, we're going to copy that. Let's bring this over to the other one. And then we'll get into stuff. So we want to come back down to here. Bam. Save that. Hopefully that will add a bit of reach. I think that will... I think that will do. Okay, right, I want to pull this up. I also want to grab this. I wish it would stop going into the background. Please don't run in the background. I need you active so I can do stuff. Okay, and then what else am I missing? Gloves. I need some gloves. Okay, 2 seconds, guys. Okay, so we're carrying on with our Lucius the Eternal, which is the 2005 sculpt, the metal model. And we did really good on the flesh of the armor of Shrieking Souls. It looks really nice. It's a lot warmer than what I intended, but it looks really, really good. So I'm pretty happy with where it's at right now. There is stuff to do on it, but more at a later point. So I want to get more of the bulk colors down. So what we're doing first is we're going to do his face. So here is our model, and if I bring this up close, hopefully I can get it to focus on him. There we go. So obviously it's very skull-like and angular, covered in scars. It's quite angry and aggressive, with a little bit of mockery involved. So I really want to do this justice. It's very, very important. The other part that we've got to consider are these cables. So if we can operate at more than 3 frames a second, we've got all of these cables going into the back of his head. And ironically, this is a very similar case to what the World Eaters have. They have the Butcher's Nails, which kind of drives them crazy. Whereas I'm assuming what Lucius has here are a bunch of wires which are pumping all kinds of crazy chemicals into his body to just make him also kind of crazy. So what we're going to do is we are going to start putting in the shades of his face. Now, when I was at Salute, and while we discuss this, I'm just going to touch up the paint on his face already. While I was at Salute, I went and I spoke to one of the judges afterwards to get some advice. And he said, if I want to improve my painting, my next real step is to make sure that I look at the models as a series of shapes rather than heads, arms, guns, and all of that kind of thing. So, for example, while we're painting Lucius's head, and this is, of course, easier because he's bald, so we don't have to worry about hair being in the way and confusing us. The skull is basically a sphere. And so that's what I need to try and look at when I'm painting this part of the miniature. Now, is that going to be easy? No, it's not. I have to sort of, as we all do when we're learning, you have to retrain your brain how to think. Right there, you can't just go at it mindlessly doing the same thing that you always do. You've really got to take your time and pick out and consider what you're doing. So I'm going to get a smaller brush, but let's just have a quick look here. Obviously, the facial features here are going to be the main focal point. So this is going to naturally be brighter, but I'm just trying to think. The lower jaw will be darker, especially as you come around the sides here. You can kind of see it under the light already. Where is the light hitting? Which areas are in shadow, which are not? So like his eyes, you basically can't see them because there is so much shadow. And then because I'm trying to explain this, but I'm not very good at this sort of thing when it comes to painting. But I think the big sort of trap you can end up in is you start painting the face here, and you're trying to apply these highlights and shadows, and then you turn the model and you continue to do that, but you're using the same colors, or rather the same tones of colors. So it's just as bright on the side as it is on the front, which obviously isn't the case. That's not how it works. If you look at my face, you poor sods, I'm gonna look at my face, but you can see where it is brighter, and even on a front view, because my light is just off screen, but it's up here. You can see the brightest part is only sort of from my eyebrows and down. There's a little bit of highlight on the ridge above, but everything above that is in shadow. Everything to the side is in shadow as well, right? But if I were to turn my head, right, you can be tricked, because now that the direction that the light, although the direction of the light is the same, the planes that it's hitting are different. So now my whole cheek here is in light, whereas if I put it back, there is shadow again. And this is the sort of thing that I've got to watch out for. I probably explained that really badly. Hopefully that kind of made sense. If it didn't, I'm not going to try and explain it again, because it'll still make no sense. Hey boss, thank you. How are you? Is everything coming through okay? Just let me know. I appreciate that. So yeah, we're gonna start painting this through. The other trap, which is relatively unique to Lucius, but you can apply this to a lot of other bone like structures. So if you have a skeleton army, say like Tomb Kings, you could run into this, where because in this case it's the skin, but also the bone if we're talking Tomb Kings, because it's going to be going all the way up to a kind of white color, your highlights can get lost in that white color. It's the same as if you're painting a really dark color, your shadows and highlights can kind of get lost in there as well. So you've got to try and keep that in consideration. There's a lot of other things. So with Lucius's face being white, but we're using a very warm color palette. So if I pull up that picture again, that main picture, here he is. Even though his face is white, it is still influenced by the colors that are around him, so that light is going to reflect onto him. So a really good way to sort of illustrate that for yourselves is, let's say you've got a flame, right? If you bring the flame close to an object, you will see that orange light reflected onto the object that it's nearby, and so that influences how the object looks. So let's put that away. And I just want to start bringing these colors up. So what I've got on my palette, just so you guys have an idea, we have Blanched Berry, which is our base color. Then I have, to add some warmer highlights, we have some Moonbeam Yellow. These are all from the John Blanche sets from Army Painter. So that's set 1 and 2. I don't have 3 and 4 yet. That's for another day. To add some more highlights, especially as we go into that white color, we have Ivory White. And then for the shadows, I have a bit of the darkness, which will help us go the other way and just apply those shadows. So that's what I've got on the palette. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making a kind of map on Lucius's face. So I'm going to start with the Blanched Berry and the shadow. And I've already put in way too much shadow, so let's try that again. And this is going to make like a kind of dark purple. I butchered that expertly. Yeah, I know. I'm not very good at improv. Painting is not my strong point. It's hard to explain. Love lurkers. So, anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to have some shadows. So, his lower jaw is going to be darker. I need to add much more liquid because it's very warm up here at the minute, so everything dries a lot faster. So we're going to add these darker tones in where we don't want the focus to be. So the lower jaw is going to be really important for that. Also the back of the head, and we can also apply a little bit to under the nose and the eyes, which will add some contrast when we highlight the higher portions of that. So just a little bit under here. And then we're going to do the sides of the head. Now, I'm not going to do the entire side of the head in shadow because his cheekbones, with him having a very skull-like face, his cheekbones stick out so much that they are going to catch a lot of the highlights and, of course, cast a lot of shadows. So I'm going to avoid putting the darker tones on his cheekbones. I'm going to add some shadow. As we reach towards the back, I'm going to add shadow to the top part of the back of the head, if that makes sense. So this back area is going to be in shadow here, whereas this front area is going to be lighter because more light will hit it. And of course, having that thinner paint will mean that we're not going to fill in all of those scars with thick paint. That is the last thing that we want to do. Okay. So that is sort of the shadowy area. Now I'm going to go to the other side and we're going to add in the lighter colors, or the where some of the highlights are going to be. And this is more for the warmer midtones. This is going to help it remain aligned with our color palette without straying too far away. Or at least that is the theory. So for this, I want to make sure we pick out the nose. I've got too much paint on my brush, or rather I have too much liquid on my brush. And the bags under his eyes are quite prominent too, so I want to pick those out because that's going to help us find where his face is, basically. We're going to get those cheekbones. And the front and top of his scalp. We just want to make sure that we don't go too far back. And of course his brows. His brow line is quite prominent as well. So we want to make sure that that is shown too. And they're being real noisy outside. Silence, child. Trying to focus. Okay. Okay, so I don't know how well it's showing up for you guys. I don't know if you can really see yet where those shadows and highlights are, but I think the most obvious bit is his lower jaw is obviously darker. The back of his head is supposed to be darker too. So we're going to try and help that out a little bit by adding some of this ivory in. And we're going to be even more selective with our highlights than what we were before. The thing is, though, when we add our ivory, we lose some of that warm temperature. The ivory is quite cold. So if you want to keep that warmth, add in a touch more of that yellow. Not so much the blanched berry, because the blanched berry is actually quite cold. So we use the yellow instead. And again, I'm going to start picking out more of his features, and I think it's going to start becoming a bit more obvious. Concentration. And we're going to get those front planes as well of the face, as well as those bags under his eyes. We're just pushing around to the sides of the head as well, because that will catch some light. And then, of course, we have his cheekbones and these weird little circles where his ears would have once been. Now, of course, when you're doing the cheekbones, make sure that you're highlighting only the tops of the cheekbone, because of course underneath it's going to be shadow. But I'm gonna go shut that window because it's very noisy and it's distracting me. There we are. I will elect to melt in this room instead. Okay, so how are we looking? Messy. We're looking a little messy. So how can we push this? Well, first of all, we need to trust the process, right? We've only just started, so as we are looking at the front, we're going to add some highlights to the front of that lower jaw. But I want it to fade off relatively quickly. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this color up again. So we're going to add more ivory. Yes, melt with me, suffer. It was just too loud for me. I don't know how much of it you guys were picking up, but it's pretty noisy. I can still hear them. But that's okay. and it's sort of coming together. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some ivory white, thin it down, and then I'm going to add some of the previous color to the white. Now, the reason for this is when you add the white to a large amount of color, the white is very quickly lost, and so your highlights aren't as intense. Whereas if you put some fresh white out and then add in a very, very small amount of color, you get a much brighter looking highlight. And so you can basically just go through that process a lot faster and using less paint. It also means that because you're taking your color that you're putting into your white from the previous highlight that you used, it means, theoretically at least, that you're using the same tonal palette as you progress. So you're in the same progression instead of remixing the entire color again. So we're picking out the details now. And hopefully you can already see how much of a difference that is making. The problem is though, it dries very, very quickly on your brush. So you just have to be aware of it. So again, we're at the cheekbones and those weird ears of his. And I'm just trying to let this color fade out as it progresses. And again, we're trying not to fill in those scars. And some of the shallower ones are going to get covered up. But we will be able to fix that later on. Right now, we're just putting in the basic planes. Okay. Now, a little more for the bottom. Okay, and I'm just trying to smooth that out a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit towards the back, but at this stage the paint is becoming thinner. So when it dries, it becomes much less obvious, whilst also remaining coherent with the rest of the model. And again, we're reinforcing that brow line and that nose. So let's clean off the brush. Let's have a quick look. So, of course, here is my original one. Okay, I mean, it basically looks like a white blob, right? You can see some of the scars, right? The teeth have been picked out nicely. Obviously, the tongue is sticking out and the cables are all painted in. But there is no color shifting, there's no shadows or highlights or anything like that. And I'm sure on camera it's even harder to look at. Now, this is what we have so far already. And you can see a lot more of the scarring. And there is an attempt at adding highlights and shadows, but we're struggling. Right, now the reason I say this is because it doesn't really look like much of a face right now. I think we just need to push some highlights and shadows a little bit more. So, back to my 00, wherever it's gone. There it is. The other thing is, I don't seem to have my brighter white, so the ivory is about as white as I can go right now. Which is something I never really thought about until now. I would need a much brighter white for the look that Lucius has for himself. Normally, I don't tend to go brighter than the ivory, but we will see. We might be able to push this a little bit more and get away with a bit more because of the grimdark aesthetic. So if we go in with like where I would have it super white, I think if we just have the ivory, we might be okay. But it could just be a confidence thing. Faces aren't a strong point. Give me a helmet and we're all right. Massive improvement, thank you. The other thing is, let's be real here, right? If you're doing faces, you know, it's not quite a face per se; it's more of a mask. But compare this to an orc. Now, of course, we are comparing a 28. This is 28mm to this, which is 32mm. But orcs generally have much larger. They have larger heads, okay? They got big heads, big egos, massive mouths. And so it basically gives you more room for your brush. Right, here we go. Here is another one. Right, it's like two and a half times the size even. And so orcs are a really good way to learn to get used to faces and flesh in general as well, because they have a lot of exposed flesh. Doing something like this with Lucius is it's a lot more of a challenge. I think another way that we could incorporate some ways to define this more is to attempt to do a more grimdark compendium approach to a certain degree and include some bruising and some angry skin around these scars, almost as if he's recently been turned back into Lucius, you know? Maybe somebody killed him a couple of days ago and he's just reformed himself, right? He's just taken over his latest host, and so the wounds are angrier because they're fresh again. That could be another option that we go through. So I'm going to grab some of this ivory again. Pure ivory now. Take off the excess so that we have that control. Okay, and I'm going to pick out the top parts. And I'm almost kind of stippling the paint on so that it goes where I want it to. Too much. Just wick it off. Control it. There we go. Sometimes that happens. Instead of panicking, just wipe off your brush and wick the excess off. It's a lot of the time that I found it's less of a case of having too much paint on your brush and more of a case of having too much water on your brush. And so you get this sort of big blob that pools everywhere, and then you get this sort of chalky ring that is left behind. But a lot of the times, if you get a clean brush, you can kind of just wick it off. Now, while I'm working with this ivory, I'm in that dangerous territory of just destroying all of the shadow work that we've been putting in. So I'm trying to remain focused on the front areas and of course the raised areas. But it's always tempting to just go completely off the rails and just apply it everywhere. But if we do that, we'll lose everything. We'll lose all of the detail. Okay, so let's have another clean. Let's have another look. And we're going to grab, let's bring this up, pull it back into focus. There we are. It doesn't look half bad. That's starting to look pretty solid. It's not, we're not going to win any competitions with it, that's for sure, but it's a huge improvement already. And that's just what that bit of pure ivory has done. You know, I can look at that next to the picture and be like, yep, this is Lucius, you know. Let's get that art back up again. Let's just bring his face over. So this is quite interesting, actually. So you can see in the photograph here, the photograph. This isn't a photograph. In the artwork here, his head is angled down, so this is actually all in shadow, right? And then only the top and this side here has the light, which means the light is coming down from. I'm using the cursor. I'm using the cursor to show you guys, but you can't see my cursor. I know there's a way to do that though. Is it tools? Or is it settings? Stream, nope. General? Nope, it's not there. Let's see if I can find it. When in doubt, look it up. Ensure capture cursor is on. Checked in your display or game capture source properties. Okay. Problem is, I don't know how to do that. I don't know. Anyway, well, that's an issue for another day. Anyway, you can see the light for in the art is coming uh down from the right hand side, right? It's coming down from the top right, so it's shining on the top of his head. The right hand side of his upper face is in light, and then you have a little bit of shadow over the brow and the lower and the upper lip. But his nose, or the right hand side of his nose, is highlighted, which means the opposite side is all in shadow again because it's blocking where the light is coming from. So I think we may need to push things back a little bit because we have a similar kind of situation here. Right here, if we look back at the miniature, let's tell Lucius's photo ID to go away. If we look at his face, it is obviously tilted to one side. It's quite a mocking pose. His face is slightly lowered, but not much. It's more tilted. Right? And so if I try and sort of copy that, we can sort of see if first of all my like this. Right, you can see on my face here. Right, this is all in shadow. Now, of course, I'm reversed, so this is a bit weird for me. But this side is all in shadow, whereas this side is bright. So, on the miniature, I would want this to be bright here and darker here. Right, this should all be dark. Now, it's tempting to just slap a wash on there, but I don't think that's going to help us at all. So I'm going back to some of those previous layers. And we're just going to try and reintroduce those darker colours back in. Just a little bit. Now, if I do this thin enough, some of the light from the ivory is going to shine through, which we can use to our advantage. So we're applying this a bit like a glaze. And so this then makes it look a lot more three-dimensional. Now if I go back another layer of colour, so we incorporate a bit more shadow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing in some of that blue in. Like that grimdark shadow that I was talking about. And I'm going to put that in the deepest parts. I'm going to add a little bit of ivory. And that just sort of wakes up the colour. And I'm going to apply some of that new shadow colour to the back and the other areas where we have that shadow. Okay, and we're adding some to the scarring. Okay, and there we go. So let's have another look. So you can kind of see where I've added in that shadow. Okay, so it's not terrible. So what I want to do next is I want to start picking out some of these cables. Okay, I want to color in these cables. We're going to have a few different ones. But I don't want to stray too much from our existing color palette. So let me have a look at his classic Mini. Okay. So he has a lot of blue and warmer greens. And there's a little bit of sort of goldish colouring going on. What's interesting is you can also see in his face here, they've gone for a colder colour palette. So you've got blues and purples hanging around in his face. Alright, let's shrink this back down. Put that away. And I don't think this is going to do much for us right now, is it? Let's have a look. I don't think so just yet, maybe later. For now, we're just going to start picking out some of these cables. So we've got the one on his torso, we've got some in the back of his head. There's also a couple of cables going into his power pack, or coming from his power pack into the drugs. So we're going to pick those out too. These are all ripped cables there, so I think that's it for the blue ones. Now the other ones are green, and ironically, I don't have a lot of greens here. I have some dark greens, so we're going to go up the blighted green. Again from the John Blanche set, and I don't need a lot of it. The green's not a main colour on this miniature. But of course we have blue and yellow, so we can just make some if we need to. And I completely missed that these cables go around the back of his body and back into the power pack, so I will need to do that correctly whilst trying not to put paint on the faces, which I think I might have already done. Hooray! I think we're okay. Back into the blue to fix our little blunder and the cable we forgot. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, so I've taken that blighted green and I've added some of the yellow and the ivory. This isn't so much of a main highlight, but rather something to just pick out the actual color of the cable. Okay. Okay, a bit of ivory to that blue now. We're just going to go back into it. Bring those cables to life. And again, I'm not highlighting them yet. I'm just bringing that color into focus. We're just going to keep bringing this color up. and then we're going to do the same with the green. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, so that green and blue is sticking out quite nicely. His neck cables, his stomach cables, I picked out quite nicely. I think we need a little bit of highlighting just along here and a little on the blue. So let's do that now. Not loads because it is the back where shadows are going to gather, but it's not going to be flat either. And then just this last bit of ivory. Just to pick that out. Okay, and let's do the same with the blue. Now, the blue highlights aren't going to be quite as prominent because it is under the green. So there are more shadows. But I think that is going to be more than enough. So I'm going to take a quick little break. Okay, we're going to let that paint dry and cure a little bit before we start going into any other sort of technical behavior. But I'm really happy. I was quite nervous about this, to be honest. I thought I would quite easily mess this up, but I think it's actually not too bad because the thing about Lucius is he was once perfect, or at least that's what he thought. That's how he felt about himself. And then since he's looking good, thank you. Since he started chopping up his face, I think the idea is that he's supposed to look broken. Like his face is supposed to. It's not meant to look like a proper face in the sense of proportions and all of that kind of thing. He's more like a jigsaw puzzle. It's something that's supposed to look like a man, but it's really not. But I think this is a good start for a sort of beginner's attempt at painting a face. Let's compare this to, if I go get it real fast before I go on a break. Okay, let's compare this to the Ogre that I entered to salute. Now, bearing in mind, I did not spend nearly as much time on this as I wanted, nor as much as I should have. But let's compare just how much more shadow and depth is in Lucius's face in comparison. It's not too bad. And that's before any washes and all of that kind of stuff. This is sort of the base area. So I'm going to pull this guy back into focus. We don't need the ogre in here. Let's okay. That is that. So I'm gonna go take that break, and I will see you guys shortly. Okay, right, we're back. Hello, surprise, it's me, Spooky. Here I am. Boo! Hi. Okay, right. Well, at least null null was useful for something. So, what to do next? That is the question. I think what we need to work on next are these pieces of fabric. So we have his tabard, and we have the icon on the top, and this is going to work in the background again. I really wish it wouldn't. Give it back. I was using it. So, I want to bring up that piece of art again, and I just want to have a look. Ah, yeah, it's spooky. I know. Be brave, you'll be alright. So, you can see that these fabrics actually go towards quite towards that sort of pink territory. We're looking at I'm not quite sure what to call it. I think I'm gonna have to get my cards out. Let's put that there. Lucius, go stand in the corner for a minute. I'm gonna bust out my color cards. Okay, here we are. So I have these pretty awesome color cards. I really don't pull them out enough. I really should. But if I just get Irian to zoom out a little bit. Okay, you can see here the different colors, and we can use this to kind of gauge our colors to a certain degree. I'm trying to get it in a place where you can kind of see, there you go, without the light blasting them too much, because of course if I show you like this doesn't help you at all because everything just looks white. So if I just turn it this way, this gives you a better sort of idea. And this is a great way to learn your tones and shades as well. So those are what I've got, but I'm thinking, obviously we have our blanched berry, which is our blue reds that we were just looking at. And we're going to go from there. And on this one, it's not as warm. It has some warmth, but not as much. So I don't want to use as much yellow. We can use some, just not as much. And then of course we want to apply our light theory in the same way. I also don't really want to add too much blue either, because I don't want this to go too dark. And I don't want to go towards the lavender sort of colours. So first things first, we're going to go and pick out those main shapes. That is our first port of call. Not going to worry too much about the other things until that is done. And of course that means we can properly see that Slanesh icon. And of course you haven't seen any of that because I've left Lucius's ID on the screen. Go away. There we go. So I want to move the brush in the same direction that the fabric is going for the most part, to try and get a sort of smooth application. And this will take a couple of layers, just because I've thinned it down quite a bit. And of course, don't forget the back. Okay. And now we just keep upping it. Okay, let's start with the icon. And we're just going to follow the folds of the fabric that are already there. And I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to where the folds and creases are, so that we're not taking up, or rather filling in, those natural shadows. And then as we get brighter, we're going to start keeping in mind where that light is coming in from this direction, okay? nice. Okay. Fuzzy, hello. Fuzzy like stuff. How are you? How are you keeping today? Let's have a see. Felt like the need to reach out. Video has inspired me to finally stop procrastinating and try this hobby out for myself again. Assembling Ragnar Blackmane right now. Ooh, very nice. Some Space Wolves. My dad is pretty big into Space Wolves. I think he's done both the older Ragnar and I think he's done the newer Ragnar as well. Oh, I'm so glad that you're going back into it and you're giving it another shot. That's awesome. I'm so glad. I really should stop procrastinating and actually make you guys a video. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll get to it. Okay, I've got something in the works. But no, I'm so glad. We love the aesthetic and the lore. Absolutely, yeah. The Space Wolves have loads of lore, and they're really distinct from most of the other Space Marines, especially when you're looking at First Founders. Um, the Space Wolves are separated because a lot of when you look at a lot of Space Marines, they tend to borrow from each other or from their progenitor chapters. And I think like the big culprits to that are sort of anything associated towards Ultramarines and Blood Angels, and sort of Dark Angels as well. Imperial Fists, of course, have a similar issue with Black Templars and such, but the Space Wolves, there's really nothing quite like the Space Wolves. They feel like the old ones out. They really do. They really do. It's kind of like when you look at Chaos Marines and you look at the Night Lords. There's nothing really that is like a Night Lord. Um, so yeah, no, I'm so glad. I hope it works out really well for you. Yeah, keep pushing, keep us updated. That's really fun. As long as you're having a good time with it, that's all that really matters. And you can take as long as you like. Are you doing it as to build an army to play and get back into Warhammer with 11th edition coming out, or Are you pushing towards more display type, more of the display side of the hobby, and it's kind of like what I'm doing here? Night Lord's a dream faction scared of assembling chaos kits. Tell me why. Why are you scared of chaos kits? I'm quite interested here. Is it the infamous chaos trim? Is it the spikes? Tell me all about it. I'm quite intrigued. And I say that because chaos is what I've always done. So I am accustomed to it, to the point when I look at a space marine, space marines look kind of bland to me. So I'd be very interested to hear your take on it. I want to play at some point, mostly to keep my hands busy. You recently quit smoking. Oh, congratulations! Oh, I'm so happy for you. Yeah, if that helps you with that as well, that's amazing. Oh, fantastic! I'm so happy. That is not an easy thing to do at all. I can't speak from experience, but I know it's not an easy thing at all. Assembling a Legionnaire couldn't make head nor tail of the instructions. Everything looks the same, but looks different. Yeah, yeah, I kind of get that. I think the main thing, functionally, the Space Marines and Chaos Marines are pretty much the same in the way that you put them together. So you just need to find your torsos, your legs, your arms, the power pack, and the shoulder pack. Ultimately, they are the same, but what is separating them? Obviously, Chaos have all their spikes and their trims and all of that garbage, but thematically, what you're doing, with the exception of a few things, is that Chaos Marines are very individualistic in how they do things. Whereas when you're looking at Space Marines, or at least your more typical Space Marine legions or chapters, however you want to go about it, they are very uniformed. Everything is set out in squads which have very specific things. So you can tell what your tactical squads look like. Not tactical squads, they're not called that anymore. Your intercessors, and then you've got like your heavy weapons teams and such by their iconography that they wear. Whereas the Chaos Marines don't really do that. They don't really care. For Chaos, it's more a case of having their Legion icon, and then often either the Chaos God that they are aligned to, so that's either Khorne, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, or Nurgle, or they will have the 8-pointed star, which is Chaos Undivided, and typically that is how it goes, unless they're putting on something like Flesh or something over it. I'll give them a go at some point, though. I like the look of Night Lord's combat patrols. I really want Rhino too. That's really cool. Um, but I think the combat patrol is going to be a good way for you to go if you're getting used to it, and of course the one in the Rhino too, because the Rhino is it's the same kit for Chaos as it is for Space Marines for the most part. You just get a Chaos upgrade sprue essentially. So you just get a few extra spikes and icons that you can then put on top of said Rhino. But yeah, I think that's really cool. And of course, if you've got Night Lords and you've got Space Wolves, you might be able to do a little bit of crossover with things like Lightning Claws and that kind of thing. So if you want to dabble a little bit into kit bashing, that's good for you. Um, I think the main thing with chaos that throws people off, and you can let me know what you think. But a lot of the newer chaos stuff is very fleshy. You know, it's very fleshy. Um, didn't occur to me the two kits would be so similar. They, as far as the vehicles are concerned, they're almost identical. When you look at the Rhino, the Predator, the and the not the Lehman Russ. That's a completely different army. The Vindicator, at least in the older styles. I'm not quite sure about now, but I think it's pretty much the same. Um, they all have the same chassis. They're all built off the Rhino kit. Even I've got here actually. This is a Sisters of Battle Rhino, and you can see, apart from the decoration, if you ignore the Sister of Battle iconography, the vehicle is exactly the same. It's the same. It's exactly the same as the Space Marine and the Chaos Marine variants. It's just the details that you put on top of it that change. Thanks for all the tips. Going to give a Legionnaire another go while I wait for Ragnar to dry. Absolutely. As long as you've got all the main components, it's not too bad. Once you get used to it, then you can start delving into things like mutations and things like that. But yeah, no, I'm super happy that you want to give it a go. And again, congratulations on the quitting of the smoking. That's really, really cool. I'm glad to hear it. Right, I'm gonna go into the next layer of these cloths on Lucius. There we are. And because we're going brighter again, what we're doing now is we're doing the same thing as we did with the face, where we're now taking pure ivory and then adding the color to the ivory instead of adding ivory to the color, so that we get that stronger highlight. I just need a bit more liquid. I feel like I might have done a little too much, but that's okay. We can glaze it on. And this is where I'm trying to leave behind some shadow and texture. And that's because otherwise it's going to look really flat. And I'm not really that good at it, to be honest. Painting is not a strong point for me. So where this fabric turns up, of course we want that highlighting. But then when we have these folds, these dips, I need to leave that shadow color in there. The other bit is like around this icon, I really should be leaving darker areas because that is going to cast a shadow underneath it. Let's see. And then I'm going to highlight a little bit on the bottom. A little bit, not a lot. What have I done? I've made a mess. I've screwed it. Help. Help. There we go. Okay, I've saved it. Okay, that's not looking too bad. We're going to go up and try and do the same up here with the icon of Slanesh. That's not bad. That's not bad. Now, do you remember what I said about not adding blue? I lied. I've changed my mind. We're going to add a little bit for these shadowed areas. Just a little bit. This will help push a little bit of shadow work, and it will help tie into the bit of blue that we've added to Lucius's face as well. It's also adding just that little bit of contrast to all of the warmth that we've got going on. Fozzie, hi. You like the flesh coming along nicely? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. What is this? Thank you. I'm having a hard time with it, to be honest. It's hard. It is hard. His tabard is giving me a bit of trouble, and it's hard for me to show you guys because it's so pale. The light is kind of whitewashing it. But you can see if you look onto sort of bottom left, about here, you can see where I'm trying to add in some shadows. Same along the bottom of the icon, we're adding in a bit of that blue shadow, but man, oof, we're having a hard time, you know? It's not easy. Let's pull up our reference piece again. And of course, we have strayed quite a bit from it. But I think we just need to keep working it. The kits are more complicated from when you're a kid. Yeah. Yeah, so the models have come a long way. But yeah, you get a lot of really interesting spare parts. It allows you for a lot more customization, which is always a good thing. Let's add a bit of that blanched berry back into that shadow color. So what was it that you used to do? Were you always Space Wolves, or did you do something else? Played and collected Lord of the Rings. Oh, well the classic Lord of the Rings pieces. You guys started reading 40k books, fell in love with the nihilistic universe. Everything sucks and no one is nice. Oh man, yeah, it's funny. So yeah, I think what happened with this cloak is, or this tabard, I should say, is I think the that trap I was talking about earlier with the head, where you start highlighting and you end up just highlighting everything, so it becomes one sort of blob. I think that's kind of what happened here. So I'm just putting shadows back in to try and fix some of that. Because of course I haven't done the back yet. And then I'm going to get that highlight color again. And I'm going to thin it right down into a glaze. I'm going to attempt to glaze this. Okay, lighten it back up. Now, I don't mind this sort of sketchy-esque look. I'm gonna make it look a little more ragged. Now, if you were going for more of a heavy metal style, then you would, of course, want this to have smoother highlights and shadows. Because I tend to favor a more grim, dark style, I'm not so bothered by it. But of course, not at the cost of quality. Need just that little bit of highlight there between the chain. Okay, it's just it's really important to understand the difference between stylistic and technical choices. Right, so the choices that we make about where the light hits the model and how the shadows are formed, the shadows and the highlights are formed, that is universal. That is important. But the style, the manner of which you paint it, whether it's like a grimdark, scratchy-esque paint or a very smooth style like heavy metal, that is completely your choice. Flying through Ragnar, first model assembled in nearly 20 years. Sitting and gathering dust until today. I'm so glad that it helped you. Which video was it? Out of curiosity, which one was it? What garbage was I spouting? The string. Oh, I see. Okay, I thought you were saying that you'd gone and seen another one of my videos and then you came over here. Oh, I see. Oh, well. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm kind of just sitting here painting my boy, not really knowing what I'm talking about, to be honest. Painting is not my expertise, so you won't see much about painting on there. It's more about kit bashing and that kind of thing. But yeah, let's get in there. Because it's not a strong point, that's why we're here doing it. I need to actually start instead of just buying all the tools. Yeah, I understand that. Something in your brain just has to kick in and say, right, I need to actually do this. Right, I'm going to thin down now some pure ivory, or close to pure ivory. So I'm not sure how much of this you guys are able to see with this current setup, unfortunately. But what we're doing now is we're using this ivory, and it's thinned down, so it's barely a little more than a glaze, and we're just using this to pick out those major highlights. And then of course we've got to turn this model around and do it again, because I forgot to replicate it on the back. Always cool to see kit bashing ideas. Want Space Wolves to look unique, so coming up with all the tips I can. Now that is my territory. Kit bashing is definitely my my area, so to speak. I definitely think you could pull from some chaotic elements for your Space Wolves. It depends how far down that rabbit hole you want to go. I think there's a chance some Blood Angel stuff might work well with Space Wolves for those more aggressive stances, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know the Space Marine range quite as well. But there are sites that you can go to. So, for example, there is a site called Bitsbox, okay, which is a UK-based site, and they sell individual pieces from kits. So you could spend like 20 pence for I don't know a specific Space Marine arm. And so if you're kit bashing a model, instead of buying a whole £35 box, you can just spend a little bit to get the very specific parts that you're looking for. And that's a really good way of doing it. Your other option is if you know you want to do a fair bit of kit bashing, but you're not too fussed on specific parts, is to go onto eBay. So, for example, when I restarted the hobby, I didn't have chaos parts. You know, I had Emperor's Children stuff that I was given last year for my birthday. But I didn't have like generic Chaos Space Marine parts, so I went to eBay and I just looked up bulk Chaos Space Marine parts, and I spent maybe £10 to £15 on a small bag of just very generic style Chaos Space Marine parts that I could then blend in with other things. And so that's another way to do it if you want to buy bulk parts. Let's see. Okay, now, so I will put the thing in the chat. Now, of course, I have to say this is not sponsored. Okay. So they don't know I'm doing this. But this is just because I have used them in the past, and they're very, very useful. But they are UK based only. They do not go outside of the UK, unfortunately. But I have no doubt there are other similar websites and stores across the globe. But yeah, they've got 40k, Old World, Heresy, and a few other things as well. And they're really good. They're really good. So if you're not fussed on that kind of thing, it's a great way to do it. It's also a great way for you to become more familiar with different components as well. So you can experiment. So if you're like, oh, I want a different kind of flag, you can just look up flags or banners and go from there. The other thing I would recommend is the thought has disappeared as soon as it arrived. Oh yes, the other idea is to go onto Reddit. Okay, there's a kit bashing forum there for 40k. I'm sure there is for other places as well, and for other games. You can get inspiration from there too. Um, and there is also, and this is really important, especially as you were talking about earlier on, about instructions sometimes being unclear or whatever. If you get spare parts and as a result you don't have instructions with them, or you lose instructions, just look up the name of the kit and then put instructions on the end. 9 times out of 10, someone will have uploaded images or a PDF of the instructions for that specific kit, and that will help you see how the parts are supposed to go together in the way that Games Workshop intended. And then you can take it from there to work out what exactly you want to do. So those are some really good resources that I use on the regular. So the front tabards here are looking pretty good, but they're a bit too clean. I think some washes, some filters are gonna help just pull that color down a little bit so that it's not quite as offensive. Because they're too bright right now, and I want people to focus in on Lucius's face. It's kind of like what happened with his armor. It's still a bit too bright for my liking, but it's okay. But these tabards are definitely going to need it. But I also need to do the backs. I need to do the back parts of the tabard. Hooray! I can't wait. It's hard. I'm not very good at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to sacrifice the webcam look for a little bit, just so that I can kind of see a bit better what's going on here. Now, for the back of the front section of the tabard, so in English, this bit in here, because it's going to be in much heavier shadow, we want to use the purple colours. So the elements where we added in the blue. Okay, so that was the grimdark shadow. We want to incorporate that into it. Okay, well that's not what I intended, but it's okay. We will make it work. Okay, get that original colour back in with a bit more blue. I'm just gonna thin that out, stretch out across there, and then remove any additional moisture, because you can see there is quite a lot of it, in fact. There's a lot. So I'm just going to pull that out, and then I'm going to let that dry. I don't want to do anything to that while it's wet, because otherwise our colours are going to bleed and they're going to become mush. And I don't want that. We don't want our colours to become mush. Let's have a look at this reference again. Okay. So it's not meant to be too far away from the armour. So I think if we were going to use any sort of wash, that Seraphim Sepia is going to work again. So this is a Warhammer paint. It feels weird calling it a Warhammer paint, but there we go. Grimaldi, hi. Whose birthday? Mine. I'm old now. I'm ancient. How are you? Nice to see you. Old Lucius? Yes. Yes, so this was one of my very first models when I started. So this is my original Lucius, what's left of him. So this was one of the first models that I really painted, and he 30, yeah. Thank you. So yeah, this is the original Lucius that I did. And you know, I'm still very proud of him for like someone who was very new to everything. You know, the colours are all there. The intent is there, you know, so I'm still really happy with him, very proud of him, and I didn't want to strip him down. So when they released or re-released the older models temporarily, I thought it was a good opportunity to do it. An awesome model, yeah. I'll tell you the funniest thing about this, the original one, right? This always cracks me up. If I just bring this up here real fast, let me get it to refocus for a second. Okay. So we've got his foot here, yeah? But when I was a kid, I didn't understand Warhammer. I didn't know. I was like, oh yeah, the models are cool, that's that. So this, which is actually his foot, right? This is his hoof. We know this, obviously. Um, I had no idea this was a hoof. I thought it was a tactical rock, and that this little brown nub was his boot. So I painted his hoof the same color as the stone because I had no idea what I was doing. And you can see I've done it on both, even though when you look at the back, it's clearly a single segment. And I don't laugh at it because it's bad, but I just laugh at the irony of the misunderstanding. You know, because I didn't know. But yeah. So we're gonna make sure that his feet are done correctly this time. Ragnar's done, just took your time and followed the instructions as best you could. Absolutely. That's the key thing. Just take your time with it. Especially if you haven't done any for a very, very long time. Lucius the Hooveless. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, I can't believe it. I had no idea what I was doing. I just didn't realize it. But I would say for someone who was new at it, I think I must have been 14 or something when I first did this guy. I'd say he turned out nicely, you know. I was really excited to give it another shot because this is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, miniature, and he was the leader of my Chaos Army for a very, very long time until my first proper kit bash, which was my Slanesh Terminator Lord, which actually I have right here. Right, this is my Chaos Lord, of which I am extremely proud of. And he became the main leader of my army, and then Lucius was like the secondary HQ, which was, I think, fifth edition. And this is like, I'm pretty sure this is like my first proper kit bash. So of course you've got the Chaos Terminator body, or the Terminator Lord body, I should say. His arm is from the Terminator Lord, and of course the spikes and the cloak are from the Terminator Lord, along with the base. But his arm, this one, this is from the old Chaos Space Marine Possessed. And I just took off the extra bits and I smoothed it down, so it was like a Slanesh arm. You've also got models from when you start. It's nice to see how far you've got. Yeah, it always is. Here's another mistake, just like with the hooves, right? If you look at this arm, this was intentional though, and this was because I didn't really know about chopping up limbs to do it. I really wanted this claw to be like a walking stick sort of thing because it made me think of Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. So I turned his arm upside down to put it on this side because I wanted the axe as well. So instead of chopping this claw off and attaching it to an arm for this side, I just flipped it upside down so you can see the elbow joint panels just here. Which is another funny thing. But this time I chose to do that because I didn't know how to fix it otherwise. And I refused to compromise. And then finally we have, of course, the head, which is my favourite part. And this was a spare head that I found in my bits. I don't know where I got it. Got it from. I think my research tells me this is the Slanesh champion head from the old Chaos Space Marine kit. The legionaries. And I loved it because it reminded me of the cover of one of the audiobooks. I think it was called Perfection. And I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I'm gonna see if I can find it for you because I think I've got it saved. I just gotta find it. Uh, hmm. It's not in this file, is it? Is it before I organized everything, maybe? Let's have a see. I can't find it. Last Term Captain, yes, the old Terminator Chaos Lord. Loved it. The amount of times I tried to get him to turn into a Demon Prince and he just ended up as a Chaos Spawn instead is ridiculous. What an embarrassment. Let me see. Warhammer. Here we go. Let's see if I can. The Chaos Terminators need a massive update. I don't know if they've had one recently. I can't remember. But yeah, the old Terminators were awesome. The Chaos Terminators are fantastic. There it is. Okay, so there we go. So this is why I picked the head, because it reminded me of this. And so that's why I picked that head. That was definitely where we were going. So that was a lot of fun. And that has just carried me on and on through everything. I mean, I've got here actually one of the first miniatures that I painted. This is one of my first Space Marines, actually, I think. This was for the first competition I ever entered. This was a local competition. Right, and it was like in the back of the sports club, sports store, right? And there was like in the back corner, there was like a Warhammer section. And they were doing a competition. So they gave us all these starter push fit Space Marines. They gave us all one. And then we could go and paint it up however we wanted. So this, I don't know if you guys can tell or not. This was my attempt at a Legion of the Damned Space Marine. You know, and the freehand is awful. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was fun. I mean, even on the Chaos Lord, my freehand is pretty awful. So, but even then, you can see some of the progression along the way. And then we have, actually, I have some of my freehands, my recent freehand, here. As you can see, freehand is not a skill that I am good at. It definitely takes some effort. I've got to practice it. But yeah, this little space marine is from one of my first competitions. Sorry, the first competition. Huge, huge step for me. It was really fun. I learned a lot of things going forward. Of course, I didn't win, but it was fun. And then you can see what I was trying to do, because if I oh, it's disappeared again. If I get him to focus, you can see in the eyes where I try to add lens reflections, right? So you could see, even although my technical skill wasn't very developed at that time, the ideas were still there, right? So, and that leads on to my first Golden Demon Award entry a few years later. Immediately recognized Legion of the Damned. That makes me happy. That's so cool. Right, now I'm going to show you my all-time favorite. This is my favorite model, so don't make fun of it. It's my baby, okay? You insult him, you get banned, and you get sent to the Shadow Realm for all eternity, okay? This bad boy, I spent so much time on. I love him. This is my Forge World Sonic Dreadnought, I think. And I entered it, and I was going to go into the Young Bloods with it. Ban incoming. Ban hammer. um, and I went to enter it, and I think I was just too slightly over the age limit for the young bloods, and I got put in with all the grown-ups. But this was so good, and it's a good paint job. It's really nice. It holds up. I've lost one piece here, which is like it was like an undercarriage flamer. I think I had the flamer installed on it. But man, I love this model so much. You know, they've got the Blastmaster. Ironically, when I would play this in every single game that I had, and the scatter dice always determined that the Blastmaster would not hit the target that I intended, and it would just blow up my own stuff. But there was one time where it scattered so badly, he blew himself up. It was so funny. It was so funny, but I love this model so much. I would love to get another one to paint again, kind of like what I'm doing with Lucius now. I would love to have one, especially if I could get one with the Sonic Blaster. Um, but it's old Forge World stuff. They're not easy to find, and when you do find them, they're expensive. Because of course you don't get them anymore. So of course, this got entered into the Golden Demon Awards. I naturally did not win anything because I was just over the age limit for young blood, so I got lumped in with everybody else. But I tell you what, when I saw this model on the shelf with everybody else's, I was so happy. That's all I cared about. My model was on the shelf with all these other cool guys. And for me, this is the angle that I try to share with you guys. It's not about being the best. It's just having a good time and enjoying the work. And then you've got my entry for Salute, which was only a couple of months ago. I showed him briefly earlier. Let me go get him back again. So, I was at Salute, and I tell you what, I had no idea what I was doing. My first intended entry, I wasn't going to finish in time, so I moved on to something else, and then it took too long, and then when I started painting him, I had like 3 days to paint this whole thing. But I tell you what, the same as the Golden Demon, I was just happy to see him on the shelf. But this has got to be one of the best kit bashes I've done yet. Okay, so this is my Renegade Ogren. Okay, and man, he is cool. Okay, so what we have here are a mix of uh, different models. So this is a Warhammer Fantasy, or now Age of Sigmar, Man-Eater Ogre, wearing the armor of a Warhammer 40k Bullgrin, which meant I had to carve the model down so much. And you can actually see that process on one of the older live streams. Just to get it to fit. I think I've got another one here that I'm in the middle of doing. He's somewhere around here. Here it is. So this will give you a rough idea, right? So this is the size of the fantasy ogres, right? Versus the Warhammer 40k ogren. So they're quite different. So what does the ogre look like when the armor's not on? Well, he he looks like this. And the armor looks like this. Okay, this is the scary side of kit bashing. Sometimes you have a cool idea, but you have to do more damage before you can get close to it. Belly reduction operation. You need one too, yeah, me and all. But it means that he fits in that Bullgrin armor, which means the options for Warhammer 40k Ogrins suddenly skyrocket. Because if you were to get a box of Ogrins, you get a handful of options. And to be fair, you've got options because you can have normal Ogrins, you can have Bullgrins, you can have the squad leader, which I think is called a Bonehead, and then of course you can make the character, which is Nok Dead Dog, right? Gastric band. I'm gonna die. God. Oh man. But yeah, it opens it up so much. There was another ogre that I kept bashed a while ago, early on in a channel. Where is he? As you'll soon figure out, Ogrins are one of my favourite things to kit bash. You can actually see the video for this model on the channel. It's one of the earlier videos, but it's still really good. You gotta go. Happy birthday. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Guys, if you are enjoying it, please do like the stream. I should say all these things more often. Like the stream because it helps YouTube push it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I will eventually maybe bless you with a video once every 6 months if I remember. But anyway, thank you so much, Grimaldi. I appreciate you hanging out. So yeah, this was one of my other Ogren kit bashes. So this is using the Ogren body with the Bullgrin shields and guns. But what I've done is we've got a panel. This is a shield from the old skeletons. We have taken parts and made a nice gory trophy because he's a renegade now. We've got a little bit of freehand going on there as well, actually. Again, still not great at freehand, but that's actually not terrible. Okay. And this is using a head from the Crypt Ghouls. I think they're called the Crypt Ghouls. I always get them mixed up. But it's like the big sort of ogre-sized models again. The heads are a little smaller than the Ogrens. But with a little bit of work, it turns out just fine. And yeah, he's a really cool model. And of course, you've got him on this sort of muddy trench-esque base. So when you put them together, skill development aside, you should see some sort of continuity involved. Now, the personalities are very, very different, of course, but yeah, there should be some degree of continuity between them all. But yeah, this was my entry to Salute 53, and that was just a month ago. So you can see the recap videos where I show things off. But it's really cool. We've got the axe head from Orc Orc Knobs. This has been pinned into place with some metal rod and some plasticard rod. And then I've just wrapped it with wax cord. This fabric is cheesecloth, and basically this is just a bit of padding to fill out the gaps in the armor where I've chopped them up. We have chains that I've attached to the back. These are from necklaces or some other similar-esque jewelry type chains. So this makes it look like he was chained down and he's broken free. Then we have here the barricades. So we've got a bit of barbed wire. We've got some skulls hanging around. We've got wooden planks for a trench. Dead skeleton. We have some imperial bits and pieces. So there's a flask there, and there are grenades on the on there. And that idea, I think, was from Kelly's Heroes, like when they're getting ready to ambush the Germans, and he preps the grenades by putting them on top of the the sandbags, I think, that they're behind, so that they're easier to get a hold of. So I thought, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So because these come in pairs, right? They're stuck together. So I cut them in half and I put them on there. I thought it was a really good way to show that it's kind of lived in. So when the heavy weapons team was alive, if they had been fighting away and enemies were getting too close, they could grab a grenade and chuck it out there and disorientate the enemies. This gun is a Forge World piece. I'm not sure what it's from. I think it's like a Forge World heavy stubber, so it's probably from an Imperial Guard tank of some sort. The barricade itself, I think, is a piece of an Orc battle wagon. And then, of course, the two trophy sticks are from old Chaos Marine sprues. So they're like the trophy spikes that go on the back of the power packs and onto the tanks and things like that. So yeah, it's really good. So like Fozzie, if you get if you have like a Chaos Rhino, you will get some of these in there if they're still using the old sculpt. And then we just used some green stuff to add texture to it, and then we painted it on, and away we went. It was a bit of a rush job, but this is where I got the advice that we're using on Lucius. So we've gone from this to sort of this in like about a month or so. And then I just come up with sort of crazy ideas sometimes. I've got a good series on Fallen Dark Angels, but instead of putting them in the black armor, like what you would expect to see, I put them in green armor, and they're built from Primaris Marines. And this is to suggest that these Fallen have had to scavenge the Primaris armor plates because they're better, and they've done whatever it is to enhance them and all of that kind of thing. So that's a really fun series to look at. But yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a bit of a wash on this fabric, and then I think we're going to call it a day. I think that's a good spot because I have to go to work tomorrow. Boo hoo! Real life, I hate it, but such is the way. So we're going to get some Seraphim Sepia. Okay. And we're going to apply this to the flesh, and you will immediately see the palette change. And this is not about using it to create depth. This is about using it to stain the work that we've already done. So you don't want to go too crazy with it. You just pulled the same face. Well, this is all his fault anyway. He taught me the beginnings of this, so this is on him. I'm starting to regret this actually, but we're too far gone now. This kind of looks like he's just wet himself. This isn't going at all how I had envisioned. Unfortunately, we are working with acrylics and we're too far gone, so we will have to just fix it next time. So we might as well just finish off the task. Who knows, it might turn out great once we've worked on it, but I'm not liking it much. I'm kind of regretting my choices. But Lucius is also known to be a bit of a whiny crybaby, so um, making him look like he's just wet himself is it's kind of funny actually. And then of course we will fix the back at a later time. Okay, and there we go. So this is where we stand so far with Lucius the Eternal. And he's coming along nicely. The face went along a lot better than what I thought it would. So I'm quite happy with that. The cloth is going to need some work. I'm really not quite sure how I'm going to go about it just yet. But it definitely needs a bit of work. It could be fine. It maybe just needs a bit of highlight afterwards, um, but yeah, it just I'm not convinced with it right now with that sepia filter over it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out, especially on my birthday. I appreciate it. That's really awesome of you guys. If you want to see more, you have, of course, got the videos that are on my channel. And then you can also follow me over on Instagram. Same handle, Curse Crusader Arts. You'll find me over there. This is where I put up a lot of my work in progress shots along the way. Just sprayed Ragnar, now hunting for the perfect shade of dark grey. You don't like the pale blue, but that they use in the official scheme, so you're going for a darker look right out of the gate. I tell you what, I think what might work really well for you is, instead of going for the really the brighter pale grey that they use, which is basically blue, I think if you were to take maybe you could work with something more along like Panzergrau, which is the German grey sort of color. If you work along with that and then put some like icy highlights on there, that might work really nicely for you. And if you don't want your greys to look flat, add in just the very tiniest amount of green, or find like a grey that's got a slightly green hue to it, and that will make it look so much better. So yeah, give it a shot, experiment. I'd love to hear how you do it. See you on Wednesday, boss. Looking forward to it. But yeah, if you like the stream, please like it, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Check me out on Instagram, and if you're lucky, I might actually make a video soon. So yeah. These live streams don't have a schedule, by the way. It's sort of as and when I'm able to. So Lucius will stay as he is until the next live stream. I'm saving him purely for those the streams. And if you want a sneak peek on what we're doing next for the next video, Death Watch Ultramarine. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. See you next time. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. See ya. I'm gone.